Not very long, but long enough. Well, it's 9:30. We'll call the meeting to order with everyone present. First on the agenda, Amanda Webb, Hacker Nelson and Company, review of the FY 22 annual audit. Go ahead, Amanda.
All right, I know not everybody has a hard copy, so I'll maybe speak more in general terms and not necessarily reference page numbers. First thing I want to talk about is the actual auditor's report, which is at the front of the package. The opinion, they revamped the auditor's report and they moved the opinion to the very first paragraph, which is what everybody wants, you know, is it a clean opinion? And yes, it was, which means everything was materially stated. So, and we say materially because it's not exact. There's estimates, there's, we don't look at every number, we do some analyticals. We don't sample everything, we choose samples and that type of thing. The other thing you'll notice in there, there's an emphasis in matter paragraph this year because there was a new GASB standard, Governmental Accounting Standard Board, is GASB, regarding leases. And so what that did, instead of rent expense or rent revenue, if you are leasing an asset, we now book an asset, a right to use. And that's in your capital asset note disclosure. And then we also use, it's also offset with the liability. And so what we had to do is look at each lease on a case by case basis, determine if it met the rules under this standard, and then you look at the full lease terms and you calculate a present value of that, and then it's amortized over the life of the lease. So that's when you're using an asset. It's opposite if someone is leasing an asset from you, you now have a lease receivable on your book rather than just getting lease revenue. So a deferred and the liabilities too. So that was kind of a big change. So let's see, the other thing is it's about a 5-page summary. It's page 5 through like 5G at the very front. So I know some people alluded to, it's a pretty big packet, a lot of information. So if you don't read anything else, that gives you a pretty good oversight of what happened this year and a little bit of comparison for the prior year. So if you look at that, overall revenues were up about 17% for the county, and expenses increased was about 8.6%. This is fiscal year 22, so back a little ways compared to 21. And in that management discussion analysis, it shows the balance sheet fiscal year 21 compared to 22 compared to 21, and then profit and loss income statement 22 to 21. So that 5 pages has a lot of good.
Can I interrupt just a second? I did email this out, so the board had it, and it's on our website. So if any of the public wants to see it, it's on the auditor's additional information page. So if you want to jot down a page number, you hear Amanda say something interesting, you can go look at it later.
No, that's fine. Good. Thank you. As far as the financial statements, a little bit of difference for those maybe new to the board or new to looking at financial statements. Exhibit A and B are what we call full accrual. So on those, you'll see the capital assets, you'll see the debt listed as a liability. We also have a net pension liability or asset, which is related to IPERS and the funding of IPERS. A big change this year is for fiscal year 21, it's measured a year back at June 30th, 2021. For fiscal year 22, it's actually an asset. So that's a big swing between liabilities and asset. I anticipate 23, it'll go back to a liability. So it's an estimate that really can change that balance sheet part of that exhibit.
Do you think that changed because of increased interest rates and hypers experiencing a better year?
At 21, the market was good. When it was measured at June 30th of 21, they used that date because they have to have them out to you, shortly after June 30th of 22. So that's all actuarial.
Yeah.
Determined.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also on there is an OPEB liability, other post-employment benefits, which is any retired individuals that are still on health insurance. It's said they basically receive a little bit of a subsidy, their premiums are brought down by the younger people on staff, so there's a little bit of a liability there. And then the lease liability and assets.
That's that 271. I exhibit.
So we pay a outside actuarial firm to look at our OPEB, our post-employment health insurance benefits, and they supply a number that then Hacker Nelson includes in the full report.
And then beyond that, that's the first two exhibits. Exhibits C, D, E, and F are maybe a little bit more what you guys look at on a day-to-day basis. We have accounts receivable, inventories, accounts payables, and that's receivable. We do use a 60-day term after year end of receivables and payables. Yeah, and then the notes are pages 17 through 51, so about 34 pages. A couple of the items I wanted to point out on page 30, if you want to reference that, is that shows the capital assets. They do have business type activities. We don't audit too many counties with that. So we do break it out, governmental versus business type. And you'll see on that, you'll see the right to use asset, which was booked at about 440,000. That's new this year. And then correlating with that,
What is that?
that's the assets that you lease, the county leases. So you have basically a right to use that asset for a certain period of time. That's now booked as an asset. The next page, 32, is the lease receivable, and it gives you those leases that met that and the amount, and then it shows you the life and how much you're expected to receive over the life of those leases, the terms of those leases.
Big ones would be the cell tower, Verizon cell towers probably in there. That was a longer term lease. The
Shooting range is in here.
The shooting range, yep.
obviously, I don't know if the farmland made it, since that's short term leases probably.
When we calculate the value of these, there is a materiality threshold. So if the present value isn't a huge amount, not 100% of all the lease agreements.
Like the dollar storage and old jail doesn't make list.
Make the list.
Yeah.
On mark is page 67. What this has is a 10-year kind of historical of the revenues and expenditures of the county. You always kind of look, this fiscal year 22 audit report is just a snapshot balance sheet at that date, revenue for that year. This gives you kind of some trends over the years. You can compare from one year to the other, see the increases and decreases. And the other next page, this is the schedule of expenditures of federal rewards. We call this a CFA. Since the county expended more than $750,000 of federal dollars, we had to do what we call a single audit, which is kind of an audit within an audit. We select a major program and we do testing on compliance and whether they're complying with the various requirements. ARPA funds is what we tested. So between that and I think the watershed, the ARPA funds was 2.9 million. And watershed was about 2.5. That's about programs.
We just about every year are required to do the single
Yeah.
audit, because there's usually something, whether it's FEMA or big road project, something, ARPA, whatever, we end up hitting that threshold.
The next thing I was gonna discuss is the management letter. That starts on page 79. And this is, kind of tells you, did we find anything? You know, we had a clean opinion on the financial statements, but with government auditing standards in Iowa code compliance, we do have to do some specific testing. So on this, the items 1 through 10 were required to test for code compliance. And were required to include in this management letter to you whether we found anything or not. And of those 1 through 10 items, there was not any findings for those code compliance issues. We did have 2 findings. The one is a repeat, which is just related to the capital asset records. I know the engineer's office tracks their stuff and the auditor's office works to track theirs within their system, but we also have it on our end separately and we kind of work together to make them match. So we do. Basically, you should be able to hand us a listing on an audit, but
It's not that easy.
No, and it's common. The other item is related to disbursements. We select a sample of 25 disbursements, which seems pretty small for the amount you have, but that's what we're required to do. And there was one in our selection that had sales tax. I don't think that was necessarily an isolated incident, but and so the county should be exempt from sales tax. And so we have them in there.
Sometimes people order on Amazon and pay sales tax on it.
Well, Amazon isn't so bad because we have a county account, but if someone orders from some other website and pays for it themselves and then turns in a receipt to get
Right.
reimbursement, that receipt includes the tax, so you've been included on the emails, we've been telling
Yeah,
departments they're not gonna get reimbursed for that, so don't use your personal card if you can get it set up for a county account, so. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. a lot of individuals involved, and I know I've been included on those emails too, so I know they're working.
Working at it.
Yep. The other item I was gonna go through was the graphs, and it's kind of hard. No, I don't think they're included in that opinion.
They are at the back, there's a set of graphs, but yeah, we don't have them like that.
You want me to print them?
Make some copies or.
No?
It's up to you guys. Do you want them or I can hold them? It's up. Fair copies. The first one is just a comparison of governmental fund revenues and expenditures over 4 years. So the blue line would be the revenues. The red line is total expenditures. And then the green line, we like to have a line where we take out the capital projects expense because those can be a big chunk. Case, it looks like it's a pretty consistent decrease from the total expenditures. But that is something that can throw the numbers off. The next is a comparison. This is just governmental funds revenue by source over the last 4 years. So at the bottom, the royal blue would be the property taxes, which has been pretty consistent over 4 years. The red section is the intergovernmental revenues. So that's any federal, state dollars. The green is local option sales tax. And then the purple is just the remainder that in the governmental fund revenue. Until, property taxes have been pretty consistent. Local option sales tax has been pretty consistent, getting a little bit bigger each year. And then obviously the other can vary a little bit. And the next is a pie chart. This is governmental fund revenues by source. So the intergovernmental, the red on the left, is about 42% of your revenues. Property taxes in the blue was about 35%. And then the next biggest was the local option sales tax at 8%, and then miscellaneous at 4.8%. And I did go back and look at the numbers from last year, and they were pretty consistent. The intergovernmental was up about 5%, and property taxes were down 5%, but everything else was pretty consistent. Following graph is the same, just on the expenditure side. With the biggest one, county environment and education was about 20%, and roads and transportations is about just under 32%. And then public safety is over about 16%.
And the environment and education one would be where the passing through, so that's why that one is so big
Mhm.
for the last like 5 years.
Yep.
And that's wrapped up now, so that will probably shrink that some.
And when I looked back at last year to compare, all of these were within 2 to 3% of what they were last year, so pretty comparable. And then the final graph is looking at the fund balance of the governmental funds. Over 55, almost 56% is the general fund. And then rural services makes up about 21.5%, the green. And the purple secondary roads was about 15%. And then everything else is combined as non-major, 7%. And one thing I didn't mention earlier on, all of the mental health funds have now been turned over, so that doesn't hit any of those as far as fund balance. That's really all I had noted. Do you have any questions? I'd just like to thank Ben and Lynn and the auditor's staff and all of the departments really are very helpful in getting us information ahead of time and answering questions. We work with treasurer, recorder, engineer, and assessors.
Even some people wonder, but we get, they look through like we get information from the borough sewer and the Miscellaneous sewer and the Frankville Water District, so they're included as part of our audits, and that money is running through our budget.
They would be in the proprietary funds, so there's separate exhibits in the report that show those too.
Coming from a non-accountant mind, when I read through this over the weekend, it seemed very positive to me. That made me feel good about our county, and we're financially okay. That's what I got from this report. Can you hear me okay when I?
No.
When I read through this weekend, I felt very positive about what I was reading, and that's coming from, I'm not an accountant. I won't even pretend to be an accountant and understand this entire report, but I got a very positive feeling from it, and talked to Ben a little bit, and he confirmed, yep, we're in good shape.
And I would say, if you take the time to read through and you have any questions, there's a lot of accounting terms or want something explained, don't hesitate to reach out to our office or through Ben to us. We'd be happy to answer your questions.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
And we appreciate in the auditor's office, having you local, that it's easy to, you know, if we need to run by you, we can run down, or we need one more report, it's pretty easy to line it up. Plus, we ask questions all year round of Amanda and her, and the staff there, so. So it's a good,
It's easier to fix it before you.
yes, that's exactly right.
It's a good communication and working.
Yes,
I have to agree. They're wonderful to work with.
How many counties do you guys service?
I think we have 5, 6 that we do in Northeast Iowa.
Definitely out and about.
Mhm.
And I think every board I'm on, you do as well.
We do a lot of government.
You guys are busy.
audits, yep.
Yeah.
You said we're unusual and we have income.
You have, business type funds, the Borough, Festina, not
Frankville.
Frankville, not other counties have. those.
It's covered under ours, because, and they're actually sending monthly bills or quarterly bills to those folks and funding their through that, but it shows up in our,
I think it's the only county that we do audit that has those. But it's something unique.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Does anyone have anything else for Amanda? Well, thank you for spending some time and
Yep.
going over that.
Thank you.
Yes. No problem.
the hard work.
and usually just for, we usually do a motion to like accept and file the report, just so that you officially acknowledge that you've received it from her. So if you don't mind doing that.
I move to approve, stick the Hacker Nelson report.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. What do you have consent agenda?
I have, sheriff and auditors, quarterly reports of income and, China Community Center, Our Lady of $7 Church is actually what it is, but yeah.
Yeah. I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Anyone have a committee report?
The policy board that is, okay, we're approved the STDG grant for the upcoming years. The other department for road projects. And another interesting thing with Northeast Iowa Transit, if they go to electric or low emission vehicles, now they have to provide them with that shed to put them in a controlled environment to store them in, because it can't be too hot and too cold. So I asked who's liable to put them on. Yeah. So then, if they go to all electric sitting down there, they have to be sitting inside. Oh, that's a huge expense.
Yeah. That is.
For conditioned building for that
Yeah,
vehicle authority.
it can't be too
Well,
cold or it can't
that's
be too hot.
interesting because once you take it out of the shed, you're gonna be too cold or
Yeah.
too hot.
Yeah, that was an interesting point. I said, who's paying for that? Are they gonna have grant money to put sheds up for them too? Cause I said, we can't afford,
What-
we can't afford for county to insulate and heat our county shops for our road equipment. I said, how are we gonna afford to? Yeah,
But they're not requiring electric ones at this point in time.
they will be coming down the pipe. the electric and low emissions.
Yes, we have a timeline.
We didn't really give a timeline, it just, she still got one she ordered a year ago last January, haven't showed up yet. In transit buses. So.
If we want to know more about this, I'm sure they'll come and be on an agenda someday. It'd be great to have the information right
It's
from
Northeast
there.
Iowa Transit, so it
Great.
comes to the policy board.
Mhm.
I think their main deal is.
So Northeast Iowa Community Action Board will probably be discussing this as well, but they'd be happy to come to a board meeting and inform everybody about the plans or what the stats are. Want me to get them on the agenda? Well, then you can have answers.
I think it'd be good to get a timeline. If it's gonna be mandatory, what their estimation is of
We
that.
talked to Lori.
Yeah, she comes to the policy board and she
I'll
gives
call
us,
Lori and
just
have her
gives us
come.
an update. Or
Anyone else have any committee reports?
said public health, which is business as usual, just putting that generator down there so we don't have to worry about electricity goes off now or vaccines will be safe.
It's at the Smith Building.
Yep,
Smithfield,
yeah. They got that done.
how big of a generator they put in, you know?
It'll run half of the floor up there where all the refrigerator stuff is. They'll be able to run some computers and stuff too, but yeah. It was,
Yeah.
we got, that was grant money. We used to put that in, so. We had to either use it or you lose it, so
We have a couple of minutes.
put it in.
You done?
I'm done.
When Spectrum Industries just stepped in, can we just discuss a time that we could all go on a tour that works for everybody? So that Ben can schedule it at the end of a meeting like we have with other group tours of facilities.
Wait till he.
That way, can you put on an agenda next week or the week after, but the public knows we're all taking a tour of the Spectrum building. Does the 24th work?
We had public hearing that day.
Yeah.
What time will it be done?
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty flexible. We could tell him 1 o'clock.
How about the following week?
Push it-
Or the following
push it
week.
up.
Sure.
Let's just do the following.
May 1st.
Yeah, that'd be
Does that
good.
work for all of you?
Mhm.
Should we say noon?
This is the Spectrum tour. Sorry, I was getting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spectrum tour
Take about an hour.
at the most.
I mean,
Well, I guess we'll just schedule it for the last thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
You know,
Whatever time it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
And when we know that on the Thursday, we contact him and let him know what time that we would be there.
And I'll include him when I send out that agenda so that he'll see it. Yeah.
So May 1, end of meeting.
Next on the agenda, Jodi Enos-Berlage farmland lease discussion.
And there's supposed to be, John and Fatima were working on putting out, she's got a PowerPoint that's supposed to be on the desktop. You can maybe do
I think they're doing it.
oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. So they'll share it so that,
Here. Jody,
You're just moving on the movie.
nope, I'm gonna move so you can just do it.
Okay.
do you want to just click it for her or do you want to?
It might be.
I'm just gonna let you sit there. Okay.
I don't need to say.
I'm just setting up here for the meeting.
Is getting a share, you're gonna do it as a share screen so that, people online follow.
Yes, John is gonna share his screen.
Okay, sounds good.
Can John hear me?
Yeah.
Should be able to.
John, I'm on the computer here and as long as I can pop it up on here, looks like I can. Do you hear me, John? Yeah. So if it can be, full screen? Yeah, and that was the struggle we had last time, but I'm hoping it can be full screen from this computer. I want it close. I want it close. Does it have a name? I'll tell you what we call it. Okay, so awesome. Thank you. So I'm so excited to be here today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come back and engage with you all. And I'm gonna tell you just why I'm so interested in doing this and grateful that you've offered the option for 11-year lease and some others. So some details that I am now aware about it in terms of the lease structure and rates, and then some other things that I'm offering, and then some questions about the farmland lease. So I appreciate your attention here. And I'm trying to this computer's left up. Here we go. Okay. So first I want to introduce this. This is my husband spent 2 weeks in February literally thawing the earth for me. And that's on our farm, and he did this as a prop for my TEDx talk, which is on this topic. And then we spent probably a collective 15 hours together trying to get it into a form that could be visible and have integrity for y'all. So a farmer actually referred to this as incubating for 2 weeks, and then we spent 15 hours delivering this baby. And so I bring it here today because this is my best example from our very own farm of Black, rich Iowa earth that I'm really interested in for all sorts of reasons. And I want to highlight now this slide. I've already shown this to you. I'm not going to go through the details that I did before from my last presentation, but what I want to emphasize here is this, which is this. This is a collaborative community of functioning organisms. And I'm going to add now to it something that wasn't there before, plant roots. Because this is something that I knew I didn't appreciate it before 3 months ago, that up to 40% of what plants harvest from the sun, they turn into molecules, deliver it down through their roots and out of their roots to feed this community in beautiful symbiosis. And so the other thing I'm going to share with you, collaborative community thinking in mind, is that if any of these categories of organisms or specific members of their groups aren't there, it compromises the function of this community and therefore all of these functions. And so the other thing I'll share with you is that this community is in distress. It's in distress. And why is that so? Honestly, it's because of these things. So I want you to imagine living organisms all through here, taking that food, making the glues that hold the soil together, keep the structure that creates this, that allows water and air in, and nutrients to cycle and everything else. So now I want you to think about how we do this in Decorah. We build houses, we build communities, we build roads. Now imagine this. A tornado comes through Decorah every year. This is what tillage feels like to the microbes here. And like levels all the structures that we've built. And then we need to recover from that. In the absence of living roots, our food source, so no fairway trucks coming in for half the year in much of Iowa. And it's not, so not all of Iowa is tilled, about 2/3 of the ag land is tilled. And then the absence of living roots causes literally kind of a starvation situation while they're trying to recover. There's not many very different plants, and the plants, so think fairway trucks come once in a while, but they're only delivering oranges and milk. Because those are the only molecules made by those X plants. And so this group needs lots of different things to survive. And we're trying to rebuild this city without roofs over our heads. So we've got rain, heat, wind. And so this combination of things means that this community is compromised and it becomes unable to build a cohesive structure that's required. And I just want to pause for a moment and just name, there is no blame here in the agricultural community, because these practices, many of them have been ingrained for decades in this community. My parents, I grew up farming with, all of these things. My parents still farm largely with all of those practices. And and it's hard to change and it's expensive to change. So very few people have any inkling of the sort of capital that goes in and out of a farmer's checkbook and bank account on an annual basis. It's beyond what we can even comprehend. I try to explain this to my students when we go on field trips. So we're driving by John Deere, that one of those combines is worth over a house. And to try to just emphasize that that's why it's difficult for change to happen. But this is critical. So I did not show this data last time, but I'm going to show it now, because what I highlighted last time is 1/3 of the topsoil is already gone in Iowa. And we are losing it. All the data now in the last accumulated few years says we're losing it at 10 to 1,000 times faster than it's formed. Here's the projections. And this is from a book, World Without Soil. 10x faster loss rate than it forms. We've got over 100 years, so it gets 50% mark. But if it's 50 times faster losses or 100 times, and this is where the data says, and this is also where the rain's coming harder and faster, is accelerating. So we're not talking hundreds of years, we're talking decades. And so I didn't appreciate this before 3 months ago as I was preparing this, and it has really got my attention, and that is why I'm here. Topsoil is on its way to extinction, and that is good for no one, and especially farmers, because that means it compromises our ability to grow food. It's not good for flooding. It's not good for fertilizer requirements and for farmers' checkbooks. It's actually really bad. And so I am one person, but this is one of my missions. We need to protect every acre that we possibly can, because we're losing it faster. And so now, good news, we can save Iowa's soil. So there's a soil revolution happening, and it's happening right in Northeast Iowa. And I have met some of the most excited farmers in the last 6 months at different conferences and events just here. There are major innovations to restore the unseen life below, which enables the life above. And so I'm really excited about that. It can be done. Right. And for that reason, I am here to thank this group of supervisors in sincerity for partnering with me for the opportunity to bid on this creating the opportunity of an 11-year lease for me to bid. I want to emphasize the offering that I'm making. 1 year of this lease is coming right out of my pocket, and I'm not getting any crop for this. 10 years, I hope, is gonna be covered if I can make this fit and if it's successful by the CRP plus me. And I also need to, for equity reasons, which I've already, I'm gonna talk to Mark about this, and Ben. I have to make a blind bid without knowing the CRP rate. So I can't know the budget that I need to make a bid on for equity, because there's somebody that is not equitable for if that information is known. But I just want this group to appreciate that I am needing to do this and I'm willing to do this blind. But that it's actually not equitable for me because everybody else knows their budget and I don't. But consider it as an offering because of what I'm caring about. And now I'm going to tell you what else I'm going to offer. There are grant proposals in progress. You remember, change is hard. It's expensive. How can we help? I've already written this grant, a training and research to investigate soil for myself to gain soil health research capabilities and others. It's a small grant, 2 educator scientists at Luther, 2 students, 2 watershed coordinators, and Northeast Iowa farmers. This is what we're working on right now. And in the last week, we had a meeting last Friday, met for 2 hours yesterday with a small little dream team. And this is what we're focused on, regenerating soil health community for Northeast Iowa farmers. And this is a big grant, multiple people, partners. We are exploring collaborations with Winneshiek County Soil and Water Conservation, Northeast RC&D, and ICC. That's a second offering. And now I'm going to offer a third part offering. And this is inspiring, the opportunity to have inspiring young people involved. This woman named Janet Borchardt dropped into my world out of nowhere last Wednesday morning. And she said to me, well, she's from rural Iowa. Her parents are wildlife biologists. She's doing internships and relationship to land stewardship. And then on Google, I found this. I think she's a freshman in that photo, and these are 2 rock star pictures from Walk On that are sisters that they were all named part of the 2017 alternate team. These 2 came to Luther. In my world. And then she tells me this. She says, growing up in a farm community with environmentally minded parents, a lot of people have the perception that anything environmentally minded is against farming and not for it. She adopted that mindset in part and then became frustrated by how negative it was. And her eyes went open when she came to Luther and she met a student and she had a baseball shirt on. I asked her, baseball? And she said, yeah, my partner, he's a baseball player and he's a dairy farmer from Spring Grove. And then she said she saw everything differently. And now her main interest, she's interested in seeing how I, in her words, I have all permission from her to share this, could combine both to see how I could make farming and the environment collaborative. So I'm going to flip this. And she also wanted to write grants, by the way. She's on the team now. So I want to have an offering that young people can inspire us because of their vision. Also want to share with you that I have a sincere interest in equity for rural communities. I came from one, town of 1700. It's not doing well. This Saturday, I visited every town in the southern part of the Winneshiek County, and specifically, I went to their libraries. And you'd be surprised by how much you can learn by going to a library. So Port Atkinson, Spillville, Calmer, and Austin. I'll come back to that. My goal, so these are the questions that I have for the group. My goal is win-win, which I've already shared. I don't want to know if you see a win for the county for the 11-year CRP list. If you have any concerns, how I can help with number 1 or number 2. Is there anything? And then as I'm trying to piece together a plan here, is there any opportunity, since I didn't realize it until last week when a bunch of equipment was visible, to use or rent county equipment for the 2X twice a year mowing, not moving, and 1 prairie burn on this property at year 5. So that's just a question. I understand that might not be possible, but I thought let's ask. And so I want to those are my questions, but and I know we had tech issues, maybe how much time do I have yet?
Up to them.
Oh, a few more minutes.
Got about less than a minute coming of stuff after this, and it has to do with gifts in that box. As the last offering, but I'd love to pause here and just see, if anyone wants to share anything about, do you see a win for this? So I'd like to know how you see that as a win. Do you have any concerns? And how can I help with any of either the above? And you're my audience supervisors. I appreciate a raised hand, but you're my audience.
I guess speaking for myself, I don't see any problem with the 11-year lease. That's why as a board, we discussed to make that a possibility. I don't have any concerns myself.
I want to know if you see it as a win as well. So I hear no concerns, and I appreciate that affirmation that it's possible, but I want to know if.
Do we have the ability to use county equipment on a lease like this, Ben?
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's.
You might want to ask Andy.
I appreciate that, but I hope you appreciate that. I didn't want to
Because
answer
if we
that.
start it, then everybody else is gonna want.
Yeah.
That was
That would be
a question.
That
I see that as a win because we'll get our soil built over that 11-year period. We'll get healthier soil back after that lease. And I'm hoping that this plan will also correct some of that erosion that has been happening on that piece of land.
Does anyone else feel that that's a win? Or-
No, anytime we can stop it, it's always a win-win for
That is.
soil. Yeah.
I think it's a win, and I also think that maintaining that property, it's only going to increase in value over time. And if we were to turn around and sell it right now, that money would just be spent and then we're done. But this is a great investment, long-term, for money coming into the county. It's not annual, it's just.
I want you to know why it's important to me that you think somewhere in there it's a win. Because I do a whole bunch of collaborative work, like this is what I do in Rochester stuff. And the collaborations don't work unless there's mutual benefit. And so I kind of needed to know that before we go through what many people might consider insane, that you all think it's a good idea too, or at least see a win.
It's an ambitious undertaking.
Well,
Unknowns.
with unknowns, and I guess if I could, it's not a win for me financially, no question. If there's support for it, I think to me that feels like a win for what one person can do. To try to help with what is the soil crisis. So now I'm gonna just quickly, gifts in honor of soil, water, and libraries. And I just want you to know where they're coming from. And what I will tell you on the front end is that my kids have benefited so much from this community. They went to St. Benedict School. They're the last ones finishing at Decorah High School. And the broader educational focus in the community has also been a role. But if I had to name one entity that's affected their success, that's impacted it more than any other entity, it's libraries. Without a doubt, it's libraries. And I want to show you what my house has looked like over the last few years when we come home from the library. And I live out very rural, almost to Ridgeway. And because of other things going on here, Decorah Library was the main library that we tapped into, not the only one, but the main one. So that's kids outside in the farm reading books. This is kids inside reading books. This is kids inside this is what we got up to with all 3 of them reading voraciously we regularly checked out over 100 books at a time at the library. And it was just that. And right now, the last year we did it with all kids checking out stuff out and reading, they're tracking how much value that is because you didn't have to buy those books and it was over $10,000 in 1 year for my family. And so I am grateful for libraries because this kid's in a job right now and has gotten 3 raises in a year and offered equity. The middle kid is starting a PhD program in the fall. And the youngest kid just got back yesterday from Boston after he threw a Hail Mary pass to get into a school he never thought he'd get into. And he got in.
You want to start wrapping it up, Jodi?
Yes, I am nearly finished. So in honor of soil, water, and libraries, and you all, how convenient it was that we have 5 libraries in this county. This is one of the reasons I visited them, because all 5 libraries are getting a copy of these 3 books in your honor. So each one of you there's gonna be like a set of 3 books. And on the inside cover is going to be in honor of ex-supervisor for their care for soil, water, and libraries. And that's going to each library. 2 of them, Brady and Sweet, and I'm out of time, so I'm not going to explain details about the books. This one where data that I've showed you has come from. Breeding Sweetgrass shows how to integrate communities. And Tending Iowa's Land just came out, and this is specific to Iowa and has lots of Iowa authors. I want to give a highlight that Kate from Dragonfly, those 2 are the ones I was donated and ordered from Dragonfly. Kate said, I'll do more. And Dragonfly Books is donating this one to make a trio. So thank you for the time. I appreciate, yes, the extension in honor of technical difficulties, and I am grateful.
All right, thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.
Do I need to, I will let that.
We'll let IT get that up.
Now I'll move that soul baby.
All right, next on the agenda, Isaac Wiltgen, Assistant County Engineer. Road rocking bids and other road matters, a couple signatures.
Just when our roads are getting good, now we got.
Yeah, they're not gonna be too good right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday didn't help.
How about days do you think they've lost out on 175th?
How much what?
How many days do you think they've lost on 175th?
They're not out there today. It's supposed to be wet the rest of the week, so. I don't know. They're moving pretty good though. I mean, they're. So. I'll update you guys on that. First things first, we got bids for contract rock. Yeah, this is. The average was $14.35 a ton. Varies for each blade district though. Price was
$1.70, roughly, give or take.
What was the average?
This year's average is $14.35. Last year's average was $12.62.
Is this the same tonnage is roughly what we had last year?
Yes, it's we got about 500 ton more per blade this year.
Okay.
I would say on
Looks
average.
like you had 97 ton last year and 102 this year, something like that. Is that right? 97, 106,
102, yep.
so yeah.
Yep. Total, it's about 200,000 more worth of rock that we're putting down.
I'd move to approve the rock bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract for rock. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
As opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Besides that, just give you guys a few updates on the projects. On Golf Course Road, we have got the grading done at the 253rd Avenue dead end. We just started in the city of Kelmer, last Friday. I just got a little stretch done, but I'm anticipating that'll take probably 2 weeks to get that in the city of Kelmer there, for grading. Bridge 237 on 210th Street, Brennan constructed both piers last week. This week they'll get both the abutments done. Moving along really good on both those projects.
Which one's that bridge?
230, Bridge 237, it's on 210th Street, about a mile west of 52.
You go south on 52 to where the LP tanks are. It's just down. Yeah, that one needed, it's
Yeah,
just a narrow.
Yeah.
They said,
Yeah.
when I guess the existing abutments didn't give them much refusal.
Yeah.
Went pretty good.
Yeah.
It's going really good so far. Knock on wood, but. Bridge 5 on Centennial Road, our guys, bridge crew got in there last week and we got that fixed and, we lifted the weight restriction on, Friday. So that bridge no longer has a weight restriction on it. Fairly easy. I mean, I won't say easy, but it wasn't a bad repair at all. I think in certain scenarios, I think we'll do this repair again. Yeah, we had to run a mini excavator, which was a reasonable price, was just under $300 a day. We only had it rented it for 2 days. Then only 4.5 yards of concrete and everything else we already had on hand. So
that one too.
no, it wasn't bad at all. I thought to get a weight limit on a bridge, especially on a paved road, I thought it was, wow.
Now, we took down the embargoes too countywide.
Yep, on Friday, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to mention that, yep, we took those down Friday as well.
That's probably the shortest ever been up.
Yeah, I think last year, I thought Jeff said it was May 2nd or something like that, I want to say. We lifted them.
It hardly been what, three weeks?
You know, there's a limit on how many days you can embargo each year. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, I
Total of 3 months. Isn't it?
The 90 days or something like that total, yeah. And that's in the whole year, so.
yeah.
Like a little backup.
Yeah, we got spoiled last week with the nice weather.
Weather's right or it hasn't
Yeah.
really, man.
Yeah, we got a lot done construction wise, but this week, no, we're not
Nothing.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Average out.
you know. Yeah, besides that, I guess I don't really have much else unless you guys have any questions or.
Well, yeah, for getting onto B16 and rocking those shoulders.
Yeah, the guys actually, they rocked a lot of, they had their sanders on, they still use that and just sprinkled along the edge. They did a lot of places, Middle Calmer, Sand Road, yeah, they did a lot of that.
Golden.
When we get our new dump trucks, we'll be able to use our shouldering.
Put that
machine.
shouldering deal on.
Yeah, I was telling Lee and Jeff, I said that it would be nice to do like a 5-year rotation where 1 year we go up in one district and then the next year we go in the next and just kind of keep up with our edges, shoulders.
Locust really needs.
Yeah, that one's
nasty.
Yeah.
There's 3-4 each, yeah.
Yeah, because I actually had one gravel 16 a lot come to me and say there were some really low spots he was really concerned about.
You know,
it was a real safety hazard. Some places measure
Yeah.
8 inches, so.
Oh, they definitely are safety hazards.
Yeah, so I was
Good to get
I
on
was- before I could even get in here and mention that you already had done, so that's awesome.
Were we,
Credit that to the guys, cause I didn't tell them to do it.
were we still trying to get grant money to pave some of the shoulders?
Yep, so Lee and I have been in contact with, Kimley Horn. They're, who we contracted to write this grant for us for the SS4A. It's got some stipulations and stuff to it, like you have to supposed to serve underserved communities. And on the grant website, they have a map of the underserved areas, and unfortunately in Winneshiek County, there is none. I don't know how they came up with this map, but they did. But one of them was Protovan area. So we thought one of our best candidates was B16 from Protovan all the way to 52. So we're gonna apply for that one to see if we can get that. We paved shoulders on that. For applicable. The other one we thought was A18 up by between Highway 139 and 52, although it doesn't serve an underserved area, but connects to highways, I guess, state highways.
Is Lee mentioned along B16 between Spillville and 52 that he was applying for that grant?
Yep.
For that one particular grant for that. Is there a way to hitchhike on that and even consider adding on one side of that roadway a bike trail that would connect the Prairie Trail back to Spillville?
I mean, we could look into it. I would say it's probably,
Yeah,
That'd be a
Grading
grading,
problem.
you'd have to do
Yeah.
a lot of grading there.
we could look into that, but I would say it's probably
I'm just
far stretch.
if there's a way to hitchhike, because it would be,
Yeah,
that would be a real plus off of.
we could look into that for sure, but
I
yeah, I'd say it's probably a reach to get something
Yeah.
like that.
Was that estimate on that road, was that concrete?
Or B16?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm guessing he did it cold in place recycling with the asphalt. I'm guessing, I guess I
Cause it
did.
was like 6 million.
$6 million.
6 million. Was he going all the way from county line? I haven't seen his estimate.
Oh,
Well, it's just 52 to Spillville.
52 is Spillville only.
Okay.
It did include the curb and gutter work.
Yeah, that's gonna add a lot.
In Spillville, so.
Yeah, that'll add up a lot pretty quick, but I can ask him when he gets back about what all that entailed. Yeah.
Not to get off the subject, that's what that grant money or that money Fayette County got was for all safety. That $10 million they got was all safety, shouldering and stuff.
Yeah.
Safe roadways.
Safe roadways, it's all shouldering,
Yeah.
as much as what that amount.
You have to prove that it's.
And so the one that he talked about going from 52 to Spillville, is that the same grant that now you're gonna instead apply for the Festina? Is that same SS4A, the Kimberly Horn thing?
Protovan from.
Yeah, Protovan.
I
mean, I
I
think
don't, I
that,
think it's two different
okay,
grants.
that's why I was wondering if that was the same, because that was a small community
Yeah.
thing too, and so that's why I wondered if this was actually the same grant you're talking about, but
Yeah, I think it's two different
Okay.
grants.
maybe get an update from Lee at some point on
Yeah.
what grant was what.
Much about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Yeah. The gravels, I'm sure we'll be getting phone calls this week on that. They're soft, they'll be soft, yeah.
Is Brennan moving forward with that last culvert?
Oh, okay.
Any idea when?
Kay on, in Spillville, the one by the mill. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he thought 2-3 weeks he'd be out at the mill there. I haven't heard from him. I'll call him here today and just say something.
That's that large, that large box culvert down at the bottom.
Yep, just north of the mill, yep. Jeff said we were gonna start hauling dirt out to these other ones this week, but, we're not doing that anymore this week, so. That was the plan, but after snow,
No, yeah. Otherwise it'd been perfect.
Yeah.
Are we getting any pushback on Conover Road for anybody along there?
well, once we get out there, I mean, if you go to 183rd Avenue and you look what it was before and what we did, it looks a lot nicer and you can't even really tell that we narrowed it up that much. I mean,
It's just way too wide.
40, if you get beyond 40 feet, that's way too wide. 30,
You got a big old.
32 is wide.
That's, and we're gonna drop it, we're gonna even go further than that at 38.
Well, I was thinking personally go to like 32, but, I guess when we get out there, we can start to look at it a little bit more too, but
32 wouldn't be offensive.
No, 32 is pretty wide.
yeah, that's still wider than what we build our
Yeah.
constructed ground levels for, so.
Cause what did it used to be? A little over 20, was it, when they started 20?
Yeah, I mean, it varies all over, but back then they didn't have specs, they just, built it however they wanted, but I would say 20 would be.
That's where you got all these wash off culverts. Cause the
Oh,
road was
yeah.
squished out 6 feet wider than it used to be, so now that culvert's a foot back into the road.
Yeah, they never,
They didn't widen the culvert, or
yeah,
there's a lot.
I've also heard stories too, like back in the day, the supervisors would come out and just say, "Hey, that's long enough, you don't need to put a longer pipe in." There.
Because supervisors have engineer training.
But that's just story,
Yeah.
I guess I heard.
Yeah, you see a lot of them.
Probably not so far from the truth.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how heavy, in our gravel system, how heavy Conover would rank as far as traffic count?
It's up there. It's not the highest traveled road, but it's up there.
Let's say
It's definitely top 5.
Town line, it'd have to be.
Town line.
Yeah, town line.
Town line.
Probably top.
The top two are like the stretch. Oh, but that, you're talking just gravel?
Might be number 1.
I was gonna say the top one in the county is the stretch in front of Walmart there, but
Yeah.
that's gravel.
Yeah, that's.
That's like 11,000 a day or something, man.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah, I would say it's top 5, maybe even top 3, I would say, for vehicle count, yeah. Other than that, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Isaac.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I said we were careful to do your time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Take that.
$100,000 more for part-time more. It's interesting.
You said we're adding about 50 ton more, 500 ton more per blade. Total.
Well, last year we had 97,000 ton. And this year it's
About 500.
About 500 per blade.
You're changing it. Oh,
Then we cut out a couple quarries, so we don't have,
so this
so
one,
we get better rock. on the edges.
Million and a half for gravel.
That's just all road rock. That ain't our ice rock,
No.
no. And those piles are,
They're gone.
well, not technically, it might be a couple loads in auction yet, but that would be stretched. After today, tomorrow, probably not.
From a committee thing, that first judicial district, after the consolidation, our previous district director retired, so, and co-op. Probably see more of that, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, he'd been there 25 years.
That's part of the consolidation.
Yeah.
What does that gotta get before we get worried? It's getting there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
We got
Not 10:45 probably, here about 5 minutes.
I thought the same thing.
Is Brian gonna come
Got
in?
it.
Good.
You're estimating it'll be about 500 in the end.
I hope not that low, but we'll see.
I think we're gonna see it even out. Should make copies of that. For people.
What's that?
Should make copies of it.
Anybody wants to? All right, it's 10:40. We have a few miscellaneous items. First up is we need a resolution to set a public hearing on Marx Schluter rezoning.
Yeah, so Tony brought this up to me and is asking for the first day of May at 10 o'clock to be the public hearing on this rezoning request.
May 1st, 10 o'clock.
I move we set a public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to set a public hearing for May 1st at 10 o'clock for the Marx Schluter rezoning. Is there any further discussion? If not,
So, wait, I do have a question. Are we bound, do we have to set a public hearing? Or can we,
You have to address the rezoning request.
okay,
And the Planning and Zoning Commission only makes a recommendation to you, so that these people are waiting for an official answer yet.
so we'll see the information before that public hearing from.
no other further discussion. It is a resolution. It's early,
What day was it?
May 1st at 10 o'clock. Early.
Aye.
Aye. Steve?
Aye.
I also. The resolution passes unanimous. Next up, memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Chief Informational Officer.
Well, John's here to talk about this some too. Basic, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, yeah, this is just I guess this is a new memorandum of understanding. Basically, we have agreements with the OCIO already. This is for some newer type software. I think maybe you've seen this in the packet, but basically, I'll just read the description. This service will provide next generation endpoint detection and response for managed endpoints, including PCs, servers, and other devices. The DR platform is designed to prevent a wide range of known and unknown malware and threats to provide protection for such threats. In addition, they provide the ability to investigate, remediate incidents that evade protection controls. Additionally, this service includes 24/7 round-the-clock security monitoring and incident response positioned to appropriately respond to cybersecurity threats against the protected endpoints. So basically, it's something that we've got good relationship with the state of Iowa, had so in the past, and continue to be nice to continue to do that.
Basically, to kind of further elaborate, as much as maybe you don't need to know, but the state got federal grant money, and so they've purchased and implemented some of the software at the state level that they've now made available to at the county level for no charge to us, because they're covering it using this federal grant money. So this is a agreement that they can now we can piggyback on their programs.
Any indication when strike force may be implemented for us?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get this, signed today. I'll get that to the state and then within the next, I would like to say within the next 60 days, but even sooner than that would be great. The next, 15 to 30 days, actually.
And actually, some of these programs are already utilized in the auditor's office because we're required to use them to be able to connect to the state voter database. So this is to expand it to all other offices and so on. So, and just so we don't get too far into it, we don't want to talk too much about the details of it because it is a security measure. So yeah, we don't want to know.
This is a big benefit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So we need a motion to adopt the memorandum.
A motion so to adopt the memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Next up, cost advisory services agreement.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
So we have Cost Advisory Services, the company we've had and does majority of the counties in the state. They do indirect cost analysis as well as direct cost analysis for the operation of the reason we have it is for the operation of the office up on Old 52 for DHS, Department of Human Services, so that we can recoup costs, direct costs and indirect costs. So they go from everything to, how many bills go through our claim session for that office compared to how much it costs to do that. And, the electricity in the auditor's office and all that. So they try to indirectly attribute as much of that to that operation, that office as is realistically attributable so that we can then claim from the Department of Human Services as much as we can. So that's why we do the cost analysis. They charge $4,450 to do the analysis, but they also guarantee in the agreement that our reimbursement from the state will be more than that. So if it's such that our reimbursement is less than the cost to do the analysis, they will lower their cost of the analysis. So we never pay more than what we're going to get back. So
usually how much more do we save than the cost?
I would have to go back through, but some 15 to 20,000 maybe a year we get back from.
I'm thinking like 17.
Yeah, there you go. So
I move to approve the cost advisory service agreement. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for the cost advisory service agreement. Is there any further discussion? None, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Next up, Brian Huinker, health insurance contracts for FY 24.
And I'll give a little background here as I hand this out before we get into we can go through what our actual. When I did the budget, we only had an estimate. We can bet a month's one, what our insurance rates are. I don't know how interesting that is, but when we did the budget, they were telling us a 7% increase. The current trust that we were in of other counties was at 7% increase. I budgeted, we were at $930 and I budgeted it per employee per month. County's cost. I budgeted at $980, which is actually less than 7% increase, but I thought it would work out. Seeing your health insurance balance, I don't think that would have been enough. But the good news is Brian's gonna come and tell us that we're switching and they're gonna save some money, so.
Yeah, so our claims over the past we're with Iowa Community Trust today. They're a group out of Dubuque that when we joined them, Ben, 6 years,
Yeah, like 6, 8 years ago, yeah.
we were able to come in at a good rate. Most people are kind of familiar generally with strength in numbers. They've made some decisions that I've kept Ben and Lynn in the loop on. They've kind of expanded to smaller cities, which I don't really personally like for the stability of the trust. There's less, to my knowledge, there's not great vetting of what you're bringing in, and when you bring in a 20 life city, that's not a ton of premium. And if 3-4 people have knee replacements or those sorts of things or cancers, it's just not, to me, not what we signed up for. With that said, I would say we've not been unhappy with them in the process. Our service at times with Cisco has been a little bit difficult. Third party administrator.
Cisco is the third party administrator, so the side fund, what we call the side fund, that between what we get by at Wellmark and what we give the employees, we operate a side fund to fund that down, and that's been operated by a company called Cisco. We used to do it locally when through Midwest Group Benefits, but when we joined that trust, they would not let us use a third party administrator of our choice. They required us to go to their third party administrator, which was the Cisco company, which has been a little bit
problematic. Now, I'd say the great news for us and for our employees, we requested a standalone quote from Wellmark. Those numbers came in less than where we were at with the Iowa Community Trust. So timing wise, seeing our side fund kind of get bled a little bit, we felt like budgeting where we're at, we can make the move. We're vetting the IGHCP is another trust out there. They too are dabbling into the cities. ISAC has a very strong program now. That's definitely the strongest with the counties that we have a great relationship with. We think down the road, possibly as soon as next year, we want to get.
And part of the trouble is that Wellmark has these rules that if you're in a trust, you can't go to another trust.
Operated by Wellmark.
Operated by Wellmark. You'd have to go to a different company completely or go to a standalone. So by going to the standalone now, when the rates are lower, it opens up opportunities then for next year or 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, wherever we think our standalone rate is getting higher than what we want. Now we can look at all the trusts that are available, not just the one we were in.
Yep.
So
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of where we're at. We thought timing wise, this was perfect, and it does give us more options, especially with these other 2 trusts kind of, I would say, changing their philosophy quite a bit by letting small groups in.
So you can see on the back side of the paper, our current rates are FY23 rates. I won't go through all of the details of what rates are for what group, but bottom line, what you pay as the board is $930 per month per employee, and then you pay a little extra, an extra $340 some towards a family plan. That's in the current year. And so we had budgeted an extra $50, which would have went to $980, which I don't think would have been enough. But due to the reduction in the premium, little bit of reduction in the premium from the current year, and to try to build back that balance to make it a little more healthy, what Brian and I are recommending now is to go to $960 per month per employee. So it's a $30 per month increase, but it's significantly less than what we might have been looking at. Because I had budgeted $950 or a $50 increase, and that maybe wouldn't even have been enough. So I think this is a good way to kind of bail us out on that decreasing fund balance. Two things in that fund balance thing, discussion that I wanted to mention. One is we intentionally we had a larger than we needed fund balance. A couple of years ago, we were over $1 million in the fund balance, which was, and it was growing. And so we intentionally deferred some of the increased cost to use the fund balance rather than charging it all to your budget. And so that's what's been eating it down. We did that intentionally. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I'd have said the ideal balance is 750 to 800,000, because that's our worst case scenario. That covers if every person maxes out the well-marked portion of the deductible. So we have to cover all of that in between the employee's deductible and the well-marked deductible. That's our worst case scenario. It's 750 to 800,000. But last year, when you implemented the change to include the additional money towards family plans, we had several people who switched to family plans, which actually increases your maximum exposure. So, because now your exposure is basically doubled on a family plan. So in a worst case scenario, now you're over $1 million. Very unlikely that we would ever have a worst case scenario, but if it is, so I think $1 million is probably a pretty good target to sit at. So we're under that.
We used to say if there was ever a pandemic, but
Yeah.
now we can't.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, right now we're under $1 million, so I think we had that rate a little bit. We could probably get by not raising our rate at all, stay at the 930 as far as covering our well-marked costs, but it might continue to shrink our fund balance. So I think that we still need to include a raise to try to help that and get that back up around that $1 million mark. If it gets to the point where we're at 1.1 or 1.2 million, then we can use that extra again some year to back off our rate a little bit. So.
Yeah.
So that's what we're recommending is what you see
950 or 960.
960. Yeah.
960.
Yep. And the policy you changed last year was the amount you would pay towards the family plan was whatever amount would make the employee plus children plan $1 a month. So that just fluctuates depending when you calculate those rates out, whatever that amount is. So this year it's an extra, for $380, $84 or something. So it just works out to whatever the dollar difference is. The reason we include the dollar, we make every plan cost at least $1 a month, is because if it's free, if there's no charge, then an employee can't refuse it. And so in the event, we have one right now. We have one employee that refuses to pay the $1 a month, so therefore is not on our health insurance plan because they're covered under some other plan. So that saves us $960 a month that we would have otherwise had to pay. So as long as we keep $1 in there, we keep that opportunity open. So I think Brian has some contracts. If you're all good to go with all this, we would, I guess, recommend approving the well-marked contract that he has here.
Quick question, I'm confused a little bit. If you've got employee plus spouse plus children, then that moves to family?
That's family.
Is that the right number right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you just do the employee and their kids, it's $2. Okay.
So you get the extra $384 a month to pay for whichever one of those plans it is.
Because prior to last year, it was just the single that was paid, and then we went to E plus children.
Mm-hmm.
It is not appropriate to look at the cost to employee for employee plus kids is $1, and employee plus spouse is $126. and say, well, how come family is so much more? Because then you're counting the county's portion twice. Because the county's paid, the both of those have subtracted $380 out of the. So you can't really look at it that way. And how they figure these peer multipliers is kind of,
Every company's different.
Yeah.
We've
yeah,
kind of blended it.
yeah.
Entertain a motion to accept the insurance rates.
I'd move to approve the insurance rate. Improve.
If that works.
And also, can you approve the rate and the contract?
Move to approve the rate and the contract.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
But we are approving it overall.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So what
What would have been,
would have
yeah,
been, yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Increase.
Tough.
Yeah.
So this will keep our door open now for the next.
For next time. And maybe we'll continue to have a favorable contract or standalone contract with Walmart, but this keeps your options open in the future.
That's a good move.
yeah. It's a lot easier to fix the problem when you have extra money than when you don't have enough.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yvonne. There's no rest.
You want to do that now too? Yeah. So with a standalone, Wellmark, now we can go back to having our side fund managed locally by Midwest Group Benefits. So that's an advantage. It's both a little cheaper and we'd rather work with them. So we'd like to have you approve of agreement with them as well. And maybe you want to retroactively add it to your previous rates contract for Wellmark and
Yeah.
Midwest Group Benefits.
Amend the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's up to you. You want to just do a revote on including that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd make an amendment to the previous one to
Add Midwest.
add Midwest to the
Yep.
managing the fund.
And you seconded it. So-
Second.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. That bottom. Yep.
That one too. I'm gonna make copies.
Oh, here we go.
You taking these with you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy those for me and keep one and give him the original.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
And just so everyone knows, we'll have open enrollment probably starting in a week or so. We have to go through the open enrollment process by mid to late May, because we start with we're always paying our premiums the month ahead. So the first payroll in June has to be ready for the new premium for July 1 implementation. So this will be the time when people can choose to switch
Yeah.
plans or whatever. And so Lynn will be working on that with Brian and the people at the whatever that company. Yeah, the online thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna take these and complete them.
Okay,
And I'll
sounds
get
good.
them to Brian.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, Jim Beeghly, Roadside Vegetation Management Program.
Good morning. Before I start, I have a couple of things I wanted to mention. Just occurred to me, I haven't sat back there very much in the past, but there were people I couldn't hear today. and soft spoken, you know. And so I'd like to request reasonable accommodation for myself and those others that probably are about in my age group that have trouble, even with my hearing aids in today, I was having some difficulty. So I think there is something, I was here one other meeting when you discussed possible arrangements and, or speakers or something, but I know, and I think you're working on it.
Yes, we are.
But at this point, I just wanted to include that in the record that I am making that request under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Could I ask one question?
Mhm.
For your own hearing issue, is it the reflection of sound or is it volume, do you think?
I think largely it's volume. I know Dan's voice is soft. And sometimes I don't hear what he's saying. Most of the rest of you, well, and Dan or Mark Faldet, I can't hear his voice a lot. I don't usually have much trouble with Mark or you or Shirley, but, and there's times I don't hear what you're saying really quite. So,
Can I raise one question?
sure.
He speaks rather softly. Is there anyone that has difficulty hearing him? One,
Who are you talking about? Yeah.
Me.
Jim,
Judge Beeghly.
I
can't hear
very well.
I think that the problem is the whole room, whether people are hearing or not, we
Yeah,
just
the
have
room.
bad sound here.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right.
And we're
Thank you.
working on it.
Okay.
yeah, we're
All
working
right.
on
Well, I appreciate that too.
it. And I think just from people I've talked with, and maybe I don't experience personally, but the people who listen online hear fairly well. And so that's the microphone there. So that's the best place where the sound is right there in the middle. So if we can get that sound projected back there is what we're hoping to do.
Okay. And I want to thank Jodi for her presentation this morning on soil health. I think to a certain extent, that even ties into the debate we have about the roadside management program. Because I think understanding those features that she explained to us this morning goes a long ways toward understanding what native plants do in the ditches or shoulders or wherever. Because and I think that she has a chair here, and on the back of the chair, it says the same as it does on the front. Soil, microbes, fungi, insects, and plants in attendance. And there's a lot, I think that some of us were coming from different directions. And I was a prairie person, as you know, when I got to retirement age, okay. Essentially, I was kind of interested in the periphery of it, but we bought a farm down by Fayette in 1984. And it had been a CRP for 11 years. We re-enrolled it for 15 years. So it would have been in 26 by the time we sold it. And then we sold it to the county and they kept it in. But I spent hundreds of hours nursing that 120 or so acres of prairie so I could get rid of Canada thistle, and did a lot of that spot spraying and a lot of the things you hear about that actually occurred in your ditches. And over that time, I come to have an emotional attraction to native plants. And so, an appreciation for them. I saw lots and lots of insects I hadn't seen since I was a native prairie that was a true prairie at that time. So I think we come from all of us come from our own experience and education on this. And I think if we think of it that way, it helps to analyze what we're really kind of at combat about. And I don't like combat. And so I guess I just try to have some understanding. I'll try to have it the other way too. And now to get on with my presentation for today, I'm going to give the board members each, and you take one, two, we'll pass them around, I guess. And, but you can have one too. Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to read this. I got an email last Monday evening from Corey Munger. And he's asking me to read that. to the board and public, and I'm gonna do that now. I'll just step over here and maybe people will hear me better. And this is from Cory Meyer to me. Jim, we watched some of the supervisors meeting the other day, and it's still like they don't understand common facts. They keep going back to this deal of only 18 miles were completed this past year. If they would have listened during our presentations, during our advisory board meetings, especially Vic, who walked out of our meeting before it was over.
Can I address that, please? I did not walk.
If you can wait for the end, I'll be glad to. And walked out of our meeting before it was over because he obviously didn't agree with what was being presented. He would have learned that 18 miles that we completed this past year of brush removal was the most intensive and the greatest possibility of right-of-way that would cause accidents or have issues for infrastructure. Also, if they would have paid attention, they would have looked at the information given them. These miles represents that was done were completed with large machinery such as excavators, loaders, and skid steer with forestry head, and hundreds of man-hours of chainsaw work because those areas were neglected for large tree removal for anywhere from 25 to 60 years. That is the reason why those acres were done, and the cost and time invested was so great for those miles. So by stopping the roadside management program, we're just continuing the cycle that will have to be redone again in 25 to 60 years of trying to kill large trees in the right of way instead of doing minimal maintenance now after those trees were removed. Further, that mileage is above and beyond any work that was completed in that matter previously to our roadside program. The proof in that statement is why is the county going through these areas painstakingly removing these trees if crews were doing such an effective job before roadside programs were what the roadside program was initiated. They failed to realize that we had completed over 400 miles of spraying this last year. That's a huge amount. We completed over 40% of acres in the right of way last year, traveled with the spray trucks. This has all been documented with GIS tracking and data collection. So when they cherry pick information and leave out the details, they're painting a picture that is truly false and for the sake of their own narrative. I had personally asked Vic 4 or more times to go with me at public meetings to review the projects and the work we're doing to learn more about it. If he was opposed to it, and he never ever accepted that opportunity, he neither wanted to or had any desire to be part of the program, even though he insisted on being on the advisory board. And like I said, when we did have our advisory board meeting, he walked out on it early. It's truly mind-boggling that they only select one part of all of the work that largely 2 individuals did throughout the year, from ditch cleanout seedlings to mowing or of seeding noxious weed areas, to preparation of burn sites, preparation of brush sites for removal, preparation of seeding sites, vegetation management planning, infrastructure protection, overall noxious weed control, public interaction programs such as the no spray, no mow, and not to mention daily duties such as snow removal and administration of grants. Documents such rewriting a thorough management, plan with step-by-step guidance on best management practices protocols. There is an enormous amount of data, information, photographs, and documentation to back up all that we had done because we were thorough. Besides, we had to report this information to granting partners and to the state of Iowa, and also to our program managers at the Iowa Prairie Center. Ultimately, in the end, what frustrates me the most, and I know I've moved on from this position, but myself and my technician worked our butts off to create a program that was arguably one of the top 10 in the state. And that was getting the job done, saving taxpayer money, protecting the environment, and making our county a better place. And it is being labeled as a non-functioning program to suffice the agenda or narrative of several individuals who never took the time to learn or to invest into something that made their county a better place to live. Please pass this on to whom you see fit. I, for some reason, can't find John Beard's email. So if you guys could share the information with him, that would be great. Corey. John, did you get it? You got a copy?
Well, may I address that? I did not walk out of the meeting early. If I did, there was 3 other people that I talked to in the parking lot at the same time that walked out. So I did not walk out of the meeting early.
Okay,
I don't mind being lied about.
okay. Well, you can take that up with Corey if you ever run into it.
Because I talked to 3 other people that left the meeting the same time I did in the parking lot. So I don't like being
I understand if that's the case, why you wouldn't like it. I also, last Friday, my wife and I took a drive out to the county. I asked Corey if he could tell me where he'd done some roadside work, because he referred to that in here about the trees and so forth. And we took pictures of some of those sites along the way. And so I'm going to set this over here, and at the end, I'm going to hang around a while today. And anybody that wants to come and look through these pictures to see what was the work that was done in the roadsides, you're welcome to look at these. They're also in this booklet or 3-ring binder is a reduced size of that larger spreadsheet that we had that shows the grants that went into purchasing this equipment and the amount the county contributed in the total cost of that equipment. I brought along today those pictures over there that I had here last week that show a lot of the equipment that was in the sheds and all of the equipment that they used on roadside management. And that'll help give an idea of the scale of this operation. I also went back and looked at some of the reports that have come in with respect to doing away with the roadside program. I have a copy here of Lee Berkey's report on that and the value of the program. And then I also have the Pottawatomie County engineers strongly supported. All of these are strongly supported. And they all point out that they save money. And down the road, they'll save a lot of money if they use native plants and the integrated roadside vegetation management programs. This program is established under Iowa law. We have the University of Northern Iowa as sponsors the what's the name of it, John? The Center for Tallgrass Prairie. That's what I was trying to think of. And you can go to the Tallgrass Prairie website and read a lot of information, and then you'll learn a lot about what has been involved in this management program that's been adopted and now, I guess, terminated by the county here. Fayette County engineer, Dallas County engineer, Jones County engineer, Pottawatomie County engineer, and Lee Berkey's reports. They're all in here. And like I say, those photographs are over there. I got a little bit of a late start. I'll try to see if I can get this done quick enough. Mr. Kelsey, when I talked to you last Monday and asked you to share any information you have that would show savings by ending the roadside program, you said you don't recall getting the itemized financial detail from the engineer that you had requested. And Mr. Vick agreed, and Mr. Langrick concurred that the engineer report was pretty vague. My questions to each of you: one, what specific financial detail were you expecting Mr. Berkey to provide that he did not provide in his report of February 27th? Again, I'll give you a chance to address that. Did you tell him what additional detail you wanted? If so, did he provide it or refuse? At subsequent meetings, did you ask for those details? Number two, would it be reasonable for Mr. Berkey to interpret your request as asking for information that shows the integrated roadside vegetation management program is a cost-saving program? Don't you think the county engineer and the roadside manager's reports from these other counties were sufficient to show the value of integrated roadside management programs and that the programs are a cost savings in those counties? Number three, what itemized financial detail did you expect Mr. Berkey to provide to show the value of an integrated roadside vegetation program? Number four, don't you think Mr. Berkey's report and the reports of the engineers and roadside managers from other Iowa counties showed that the roadside management programs save money for counties that adopt the program? Five, Mr. Langrick, did you ever tell Mr. Berkey that you thought his report was vague and that you wanted more specific information? Number six, Mr. Kelsey, what specific itemized financial detail did you find lacking? What information was necessary for you to make an informed decision about whether to continue the program? Do you feel you had adequate information when you voted to terminate the program? Apparently, you thought you had sufficient itemized financial detail, as you put it, to terminate, but not to continue the program. Is that right?
Why don't we start with your-
I'll
Are
come
we gonna
back.
start with your list of questions?
I'm gonna finish the questions.
Okay, go right ahead.
Mr. Kelsey, Mr. Vick, and Mr. Langrick, have you or anyone on your behalf done a financial analysis showing that there would be financial benefit to terminating the Winneshiek County Integrated Roadside Vegetation Management Program? If you have they produced a report? Are you expecting a report? If there is or will be a report, would you provide copies to the county auditor, county attorney, and county engineer upon receiving it and make it available to the public? Have you read Engineer Berkey's report? Pages 6 through 8 of his report shows the budget cost comparison of the past 10 years of roadside management. The last 5 years before the Integrated Roadside Management Program was adopted, and the first 5 years of the program. And was that detail provided, and the detail provided on page 6, was it adequate for you to conclude whether the roadside management program was of financial benefit to the county? Beside the financial benefit to the county, do you believe there are other benefits of a vegetative roadside management program? Why are you determined to end the roadside vegetation management program, notwithstanding all evidence to the contrary? And I'm sorry, I had to cut off answers when they did, but I had to get it in my time slot, and I'd be glad to.
Please don't put your,
Glad to talk.
please don't put your question away. I'd like to see a copy of it so we can answer it for you.
Okay, I'll do that. We have a printer here, don't we?
Right there.
Okay, well, I'll wait and do it afterward if that's all right with you. But if any of you, I don't know if there's, if any, I'm interested in your input. I've asked a number of questions, and so I guess I'm sure other people here would be interested too, if you want to direct those this time. Okay. Well, I know, Mr. Vick.
I just did my own figures and I got them with me. I just scratched some stuff down.
I remember at first where we all were taken by surprise on the February 6th meeting. I think the figure you gave out that meeting, if I'm not incorrect, was $250,000 saving to eliminate the program. You were quoted in the counter courier saying $400,000 savings if we eliminated the program.
Where did you guys come up with those numbers if you had no numbers from Lee Beeghly or Corey Meyer? How did you come up with those figures?
You got labor, that's pretty easy to figure out. You can look up whatever and, equipment. List of equipment that.
How do we save that money though? How do we save the money if you can't sell the equipment we have that was granted to us? We have to get that.
No, you got
That's up to
pickups,
the,
you got pickups, the money we spent on sprayers and other stuff like that. You got insurance, you got fuel, you got labor. You got buildings, you got.
you have it all in writing that you had that first day on February 6th.
I gotta scratch that home someplace. I mean, I just come up.
Can you
with
bring that back to next week's
Why?
meeting? Because I want to see where you're coming up with these numbers.
Why? We haven't terminated the program.
Yeah. haven't
Well,
done
I
it.
don't want to. I want to save the county money.
We've yet to hear a detailed accounting, which is what we asked Lee Beeghly for, what the roadside management program, excuse me,
Yes, go
I'm not done. We haven't gotten a detailed accounting. We asked Lee Beeghly for the cost of the program. He gave some ballpark round numbers and then a lengthy lecture on how the program was benefiting. We didn't ask for that. We asked for benefits of the numbers of what it costs out of his budget for 22-23.
Did you follow up with him at all and go into the office and ask for
When he
anything?
got his, I waited for his report. His
After
report,
his report, did you go in?
we were already past that, Shirley. He
But-
has yet to comply with that and
This-
give us what we have asked for.
Mr. Kelsey, that was one of my questions to you.
Fine.
I don't even know what you're talking about, these itemized details. I think he reasonably interpreted that to mean justify this
I think
program
you-
if you
I
can.
think that you absolutely believe that. I don't believe that. We are at an impasse.
Personal
Okay.
opinion.
Steve,
But you
I
say
think
now
we're
that you wanted
going
an
to-
itemized detail.
That's what we said at the meeting.
What did you tell him? What detail? That's
The
my point.
detail of the cost of the roadside management program. We didn't ask for the entire cost of his secondary road budget, but that's a part of his budget.
What did you expect that he would say? Well, it cost us this amount of money for 10 pounds of little blue stem seed. Did you want that
No.
kind of a detail?
But you
Or what kind of detail did you want then?
I mean, you should have a line item, spray, seed, labor.
Oh, you-
fuel,
Okay,
vehicle
That's what we
expense.
have
I
in
mean,
all of our budgets, Jim. We get, if Lee, proposes a budget to our auditor, it
Well-
includes a bunch of different line items for all of the different things, including labor. And our labor, all of our crews in the road, they put down how much work they do on the road, how much work they do on the roadside, how much they do for brush clearing. Everything else is on their time cards every week for every.
access to that.
We don't have access to it. He does in his office.
We
because
go
the
into his
time
office. I went into his office and got
We simply asked for that. Did he provide it to this point? No.
my question again though is, can I see what numbers you used to come up to the 250,000 and the $400,000 in savings? Question one. Question two that I have, I like to work
This
in,
is not a
I-
question.
I want to work in fact, and we
That's
should
fine.
only work
We
in
should be
facts
getting
here.
those facts.
Well,
Should-
Jim found his
So-
presentation and the presentation is over. There is 1:30 PM of department heads meeting.
Thank you. You've been patient with me
And thank you for the
for the
question.
most part, I think.
I'd love to see your questions.
We'll make, okay.
Copies for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do we have a 2 o'clock safety meeting?
1:30.
One through department heads, 2 o'clock safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just go into the, they're kind of.
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
So that would make it easy.
Would it be easier for you to write out the specific questions or do you?
I did write them out in here. Actually, that's what most of the cities I have numbered.
Okay,
Those can be copied next door, different paper. Do you want to just produce?
I can go over here, copies.
okay, doesn't have legal size
Right.
paper, so I'll have to shrink it down to do it here.
Well, I can take it over your office.
Okay.
Ben, Mark made a motion to adjourn.
I could,
Shirley seconding it. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I.
Opposed? No one.
Thank you for those, attending. I'm sending it off. Thank you.
There's some other ones